Hello, welcome back to Marydale Lane. My name is Maddie, and this is going to be part 2 of going through The Artist's Way. So I have it with me for reference in case I forget anything. Well, and I'll probably be looking through it anyway to go over some things that I liked or thought was cool. A general disclaimer, we are watching a rather large dog this week who really would love to be in this room with me. So if you hear any background noise, it's probably just her. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So I have completed the first 3 weeks of The Artist's Way, and I'm about to move in to week 4. The first 3 weeks, I'll go ahead and kind of go over the general themes of them. So week 1 is called Recovering a Sense of Safety, which is more like getting yourself into the habit of doing the artist's way. So doing your morning pages, going on your artist date. This one dealt a little bit more with thinking about time travel, so going into your past, kind of trying to do like a therapist lens and process anything from your past that makes you feel like you can't be yourself creatively or create art. The other one I thought was interesting, the other exercise was called Imaginary Lives. So if you could do anything, what are other alternate paths that your life might have taken, even if they're not practical? Week 2 was Recovering a Sense of Identity. Let me refresh myself on what those tasks were. The tasks at the end, most of them are like journaling prompts. Some of them are actual tasks. This one is a little bit more affirmations, figuring out things that you enjoy doing, even if you don't make time to do them. Going back to Imaginary Lives, how fulfilled do you feel in different areas of your life, and then small changes that you want to get done. Week 3 was called Recovering a Sense of Power, and this one started out talking a lot about anger, and it made me realize that I'm not necessarily the person that this book was designed for. The way it's been written is almost as if the book is expecting the reader to have a lot more resistance toward it. So throughout the different exercises, the author is going, oh, you're going to hate this, but it's important. Or you may feel like a burst of anger at this exercise, but you should push through and do it anyway. And I think I'm having a different experience because I'm so willing to go with it. I don't know, it's very strange being reading this text, and just like a lot of the examples that they're using and the verbiage that they're using are very much, expecting a lot more resistance, or expecting that even though I'm the one that picked up this book, that I'm going to read an exercise and be like, no, that's stupid. Like, of course I'm going to try it. So yeah, I really wasn't sure about that one. But yeah, the first 3 weeks were very self-reflective. There was a passage in week 3 that I felt resonated with me personally. And it was this one. It says, many artists begin a piece of work, get well along in it, and then find as they near completion that the work seems mysteriously drained of merit. It's no longer worth the trouble. To therapists, this surge of sudden disinterest, it doesn't matter, is a routine coping device employed to deny pain and warn off vulnerability. So that one I thought was interesting because I do feel like that happens sometimes when I do drawings or paintings, especially large scale ones. I'll get a really solid chunk in and it will be turning out well, and then all of a sudden I don't care about it anymore. Even though I was like empowered to start it and I really wanted to see it through, I'm like, it doesn't matter. When in reality, what this is suggesting is that there's a part of your brain that's afraid that you're going to mess it up after you've sunk so much time into it. And so it convinces you that you actually just don't care about it at all, but it's really so that it's preventing you from making a mistake and feeling bad about it. So I thought that was interesting. That one was a little too real. But now I'm starting week 4. And if you've watched part 1 of this video, which you should have, who jumps into part 2? But if you've watched part 1, you'll know that I've already read through this whole book. I just haven't done the book, so I haven't done all the tasks and the prompts. And I've been dreading this week. Week 4 is called Recovering a Sense of Integrity. But this one is where the big task is to do reading deprivation. So essentially, I'm not very excited about this one, but essentially for this week, I am meant to completely eliminate outside input that might affect my creativity or limit my creativity. So that means no reading. So that's reading physical books or listening to audiobooks. But it also means no media input. No television, no movies, no social media, nothing like that. So this week is probably going to feel like a long week. And in some ways, I hate that I'm dreading it so much. I feel like going a week without watching YouTube or listening to an audiobook in the car. I feel like that's something I should be okay with. But at the same time, I'm kind of dreading the understimulation and boredom that I know will come with it. Here are some suggestions of activities she says you could do instead of reading. Listen to music, knit, work out, make curtains, cook, meditate, wash the dog, fix the bike, have friends to dinner, sort closets, watercolor, get the stereo working, pay bills, rewire the lamp, write old friends, paint the bedroom, sort bookshelves, a dangerous one, repot some plants, rearrange the kitchen, mend, or go dancing. And you know what? Some of those are probably a lot more likely to happen than others. I am not someone that habitually listens to music during a lot of activities in my life, but I feel like this week I will probably have it on a lot just because I'll be lacking a lot of that auditory stimulation that I get from having videos or TV on in the background while I'm doing tasks. So I'll probably be putting some music on. I hope that in doing this, I'll feel like I have more time to draw or paint. I'm not sure if I really will though. I don't know. I feel like sometimes when I try and force the issue, I have this increased resistance to drawing or painting, but I do have some potential sewing project ideas in mind. But before I get into it, there's a little bit of background context, which is Halloween was just a couple weeks ago. And every year, my husband and I have the same conversation about picking out Halloween costumes. Do we do a couple's costume? What can we do with things that we already have? And buying minimal new things. And he had this idea that I really loved and immediately stole, which is to create a project costume. And essentially it's the same base costume that you return to year after year. So it's something that you like. And every year you can work on the costume to make it more elaborate. So it functions as an excuse to learn new skills. So you can just keep adding on to your costume year after year. And then you never have to struggle with what you're gonna wear because you already have a costume. And at the same time, you're building up new skills and the costume is kind of taking shape year after year, which I really love. And I have decided to steal, so I'm going to have one project Halloween costume, but I'm not really sure what I want it to look like yet because thinking about wearing it this like year after year feels kind of like a big commitment, even if it can kind of change and flex in different ways. But one piece that I'm pretty sure I want to incorporate is this cape. So I am in possession of one kind of chestnut tan colored corduroy cape, which I stumbled across quite by accident. I was on a business trip in small town Oregon, and last minute, the meeting I was supposed to go to got postponed, and so I ended up with a lot of extra time. And I was wandering around looking for a thrift store when I saw this building on a corner, and the building didn't have any sign on it. There was nothing to indicate that there was a shop there, but there was a rack of clothes out front. So interest piqued, I stopped and went in, and I was with a coworker of mine, and we discovered that it was not a thrift shop, but this was a photographer, I believe, who had just accumulated so many of these different wardrobe pieces for different shots, and she was relocating and she was selling just a ton of her collection. So it filled up like 3 whole rooms of all of this clothing, a lot of it really cool vintage stuff. And I ended up with this little corduroy cape. It has good sized pockets, and it has a slit here for your arms to go out so you can like reach into the pockets. This one is reversible, so it has buttons all down the front, but then the collar can flip the other way, and this fabric is on the outside and it has a whole nother set of buttons. I really like this garment, but I do feel like a cape is a little bit fantastical for my everyday wear. So I would love to give it some more life as part of my project costume. But there are a few things I don't love about it. The first being, I'm really not a huge fan of this lining fabric. The way it feels is cool. It's like a really nice heavy weight, but I'm not a big fan of the colors. So I think it looks like I can see the seams where it's stitched in. So what I want to try and do is separate this lining from the corduroy and either leave it a thinner cape or replace it with a different lining. And then while it's liningless, I will probably try and dye the corduroy. Since corduroy is cotton and a natural fabric, I feel like it should take dye pretty well. I don't hate this like chestnutty color, but I think I will enjoy it more if I can get it to be like a nice chocolate brown. So I think that's what I'm gonna start working on this week. Well, and I wanna take these brown buttons from the inside and put them on the outside because I'm not as fond of these like clearish ones. So I have at least one sewing project to work on this week while I'm not consuming any media. I went to a couple antique stores today just to see if I could find any like lining fabric or other buttons, and I didn't find any of that because whenever you go to an antique store and you know what you want, you won't find it, I feel like. I did find this rather peculiar 1950s velvet hat that I presume is meant to be worn like this. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the style of this is like a Juliet cap, but I was just so intrigued by it in the shop that I ended up taking it home, and I am a sucker for vintage velvet, especially in colors I really like, and I love this pale pink. I have a dress in mind for the base of my Halloween costume already. That's like a pale pink floral getup. And so this does match. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do to it, but I have kind of a vision. So I imagine in the 50s when hats looked more like this, I know a lot of them had like birdcage veils. I don't really want to go in that direction, but I think it could be interesting if there was fabric like trailing off the back of it, kind of like veil-like. I'm not really sure. I think it could be interesting, and I have some leftover pink tulle from another Halloween costume I worked on this year that like is a really, really good match for the hat. So I may try and affix some of that on and just see how it looks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting really creative this week, since I won't have any excuses to waste my time. I have really mixed feelings about this challenge. I think, I don't know, I think for me it will be helpful because I am someone that likes challenge. I very often set challenges for myself. For example, in the past, I did a year-long challenge where I tracked every single article of clothing I wore. Or as part of challenges to like help me figure out my spending in different ways, I've limited the amount of clothing I buy in a month, the amount of coffee I buy in a month. Yeah, just different kind of experiments to see how I do. And because I enjoy pushing myself in that way. And so I think for me, this is probably a good challenge because I am someone who, when I get home from work, I'm tired. I tend to waste time in front of YouTube or social media. And by that I mean, I don't necessarily think that any time you are spending consuming media is a waste, but I do often find myself stuck consuming things that I don't even really care about. I think there's a big difference between putting on like a movie or a show that you're really into and that you really enjoy, and that is how you're choosing to spend your time, versus coming home at the end of the day and just throwing something on because you need that like quick entertainment and you like, I don't know, aren't even really thinking about anything, which for me ends up being a lot of what YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, all of that does for me. And so I do think something like this could be helpful just to get myself to push a little further and be more intentional about my time. But I am glad that this challenge is only a week because it seems a little bit extreme. I am a little bit nervous too about not listening to any audiobooks because I have a pretty long commute, so I drive an hour each way to and from work, and I chug through audiobooks from the library that way. But man, that's a lot of silence. Or I guess she says we can listen to music, so I may end up listening to music in the car, which I do sometimes anyway, but I almost feel like, I think the intent of this challenge is to get more comfortable with silence and the inner workings of your own brain. It said something about like our own art. Here, I found it. If we monitor the inflow and keep it to a minimum, we will be rewarded with a new outflow. Our own art, our own thoughts and feelings will begin to nudge aside the sludge of blockage, to loosen it and move it upward and outward until once again our well is running freely. I'm not sure that this works for everyone, but so the intent is just that you're paying more attention to your own creative ideas, and by eliminating distractions, you give yourself an opportunity to bring them to life. Which logically makes sense. I'm really curious to see how it will go. But yeah, so that's what this week is going to look like for me. Very quiet and low stimulation, I guess. But yeah, there's the update on the Artist's Way. I'll be sure to keep track of the experience. Obviously, I'm still going to be doing my morning pages. So I'll have a good a good backlog of my thoughts and feelings on this challenge, so that by the time we get to the next update of the Artist's Way, I can tell you all how it went. But yeah, this is what this coming week is going to look like for me. So far, it's going really well. I do feel like I've been working on more creative projects and finding time for it in different ways. But yeah, thanks for following along on this journey. If you have gone through the artist's way or you are going through the artist's way, be sure to leave a comment and tell me how it went or how it's going. Show me that I'm not alone and that week 4 is survivable. But yeah, excited to see how this one goes, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Next week will probably not be an Artist's Way video. I'll probably want to talk about something else, but I'll do another update on this journey in a few weeks. But yeah, I hope I see you in the next one. Bye guys!